tell me when you got your recorder ready and we'll get started. Okay, thank you. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. We've got a few things that we're going to talk about tonight. I will indicate to you we've got some things that were dropped off, so we'll talk through those as we go through the tonight's meeting. But before we get started, let me just recognize the fact is we've got Councilmember Burrell, Councilmember Yeoman, Councilmember Saxton, and Councilmember Paul and Councilmember Tafoya are not here tonight. They're out of town. With that, we've asked Councilmember Saxton if he'll lead us in a moment of silence, as well as the Pledge of Allegiance. Brian?
If you would, please, remove your hats. Thanks. Thanks, folks. And now, if you would, please stand. And repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, we've just got one consent item, the approval of the March 19th, 2019 and the April 2nd, 2019 Roy City Council meeting minutes. Any comments or questions about that before we move?
Just the March 19th ones. The April 2nd haven't been out yet.
Okay, so we don't have the April 2nd, so I need to mix. Okay, we'll table that. Okay, do I have then a motion then to approve the March 19th?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the March 19th minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you. Okay. In terms of presentations, we need to postpone the Boys and Girls Club presentation. We hope to have that next time we have a meeting, so we'll put on there. We do have, however, a presentation dealing with the victims' advocacy, and I believe, Brody, you're going to help us with that. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. Just briefly, we just want to do a presentation. I think we're required to as well under our grant to kind of present what the Victim Advocate Program here in Roy does and just talk to you a little bit about it. Back in the early 90s, the Utah legislature passed a bill basically declaring what the Victims' Bill of Rights here in Utah, which talked about the rights a victim has in the criminal process. The Utah code, for anyone that cares, is 7737. It starts at 1 and goes on from there. And it listed out their rights. We have currently one victim advocate, and they're in charge with ensuring that victims in Roy know their rights and have access to the help they need. Our victim advocate is here tonight. It's Kim Colai. Kim's been with us just about a year. In a couple weeks will be a year. And she does a great job. So. And we go in here, there's a few numbers. These are all for 2018. One thing to keep in mind is the grant, we track this both Roy and West Haven. So Kim does both Roy and West Haven. And then the numbers, anyone that's really good at mathematics knows they don't always add up perfectly. That's because we have some people that don't disclose certain information. There's just a million different factors that go in. So if you're wondering if I'm really bad at math, I am, but it doesn't reflect it here. So just a quick brief overview here of kind of the types. One thing that the grant does require is we break it down in ethnicity as well as gender and those types of things. So we have those kind of statistics, but basically over 300 specific victims that Kim at least tried to get services to and help throughout 2018. And if you look, this is the breakdown into the major groupings of criminal complaints or criminal charges that Kim dealt with. As you can see, clearly the biggest one is domestic violence. This statistic is not special to Roy. This is a nationwide statistic. The grant was originally designed, the grant came from what was originally just a women and children type of grant, specifically for domestic violence, excuse me, and then has kind of morphed into what it is today. But you can see all sorts of crimes that Kim and I deal with, as well as the police department. Obviously, nothing happens without them. And then this is just some of the services. I know that's a little smaller than I wanted it to be, but just different things that Kim has to do, and she provides services anywhere ranging from sending a letter to crisis intervention on scene with police departments, with police need help, finding hotels. That would be kind of the more immediate emergency type situations that Kim deals with. She's in court every day with me and also Mr. Bradshaw for West Haven, facilitating victims and witnesses, letting them know what's happening in court, kind of translating what goes on into court for them, and really it's a vital program. Speaking as the city prosecutor, I wouldn't be able to function in what I do without her and what she does. I know the police have similar feelings. The amount of things that she's tasked to track and follow, and then also to be there and help people who are in difficult situations. To be honest with everyone here, many a times victims of crimes are angry with me for many different reasons, and most of them just, some of them not. And Kim has to do her best to help them. I think that's one thing that's important to know in all of these statistics is there are still, quite frankly, a lot of people that don't want our help and give Kim and I dirty looks, and that's just something that we deal with in the criminal justice system. As I said, the grant funds most of this for the city. It's a very, very low cost to the city. The VOCA grant, it comes from the Victim of Crime Act, which is a federal statute, and the Department of Justice actually administers this, and then we have a Utah, essentially, office that manages it. The city is required to match anywhere from 25% as a minimum, but in looking at our numbers, we stay about 25 to 30% in kind and cash donations. I don't have the exact numbers off my head, but I think it's pretty safe to say that the city spends less than probably $5,000 to administer this whole program, which the amount of service that the city and the residents get for $5,000 is immense. We have 2 to 5 interns who come and assist Kim and get credit for it and work with things, which is a great thing for not only their experience, but kind of our outreach in the community and working with local education. This is more for the council's knowledge here that some of our kind of goals for coming up in the 1920, we're just working on our grant. The grant starts in June. It's a 2-year grant, so we cover 2019 to 2020. We're trying to expand our victim advocate and have another advocate. We're basically going to try and have 2 part-time advocates that are basically working a full-time advocate position. Our numbers certainly indicate that's earned. And what we're trying to do is just have kind of a little more flexibility. If one needs to be in court and one needs to be at an emergency, or one can't come, we have another one who knows what to do. We're also looking to make some improvements on our technology. Essentially, one of the biggest things, this is no secret to anyone that I'm talking to, but as we go through and handle these types of cases with real people, the biggest thing for us is information. If Kim has information that I don't have, it does no good overall in the process. So we're trying to update it to where we have a system where any notes or anything that Kim takes, I receive in real time. So if Kim's out in the hall during court talking to someone, she can type a note and I would receive it back in the room. So we're hoping that grows through and to help that out. This is just a note, I'm sure there's people I left off, but obviously we want to thank Kim for all the work she does. And when I say this, it's often not comfortable positions that she's in. And it's difficult, and she does a great job. She has to wear kind of two hats because she has to keep track of the reporting and the numbers, which is no small thing when you're working with federal government. But then she also has to sit down and be a person to people who are upset and in difficult spots. Also need to thank Matt and Andy for kind of their oversight. Matt's help with the budget. When I arrived, we renewed a grant shortly after I got to the city, and I think I did like probably 2 minutes of work because Matt and Nicole at the time handled it so well. And then specifically Camille and Brady this year really stepped up and helped us crunch the numbers, and they got a new magical online system that's supposed to make everything easier, and it made it way harder. And so we all had to sit down and really put some time and effort into it, and so we want to thank them for their efforts. And then also, of course, this isn't on the slide, and I don't know that it needs to be written down, but certainly the police for all they do. I mean, this obviously stems from their work, but none of it would function without all those people working together. So that's our little presentation and all we have. If there's any questions from the council, we'd entertain them. And
Council,
thank you
questions?
for your support.
So currently, Kim, is your job a full-time position currently?
Currently, I'm just part-time. I'm working about 30 hours.
30 hours, so when you talk to part-time,
So-
are you looking at 230?
No, what we're going to try and do is have the grant essentially fund 40 hours, and then
Okay.
Kim, and we have a student that's here interning now that we're hoping to hire in June if the grant funds that. And then between the two of them, they have essentially 40 hours a week, and then that would be broken up however it needs to be able to work the best and respond to victims.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That was my question.
All right.
Any other questions, council? Thoughts?
No, I've actually worked with them, and it's actually, it's really
Sounds
good
like
to
an
be.
incredible
It is, it is. They work really well together, and the things that they're able to help with, you know, those citizens and those victims is great.
It is a great program, and we're glad it's not only here, but improving, and it really is. That's a good thing.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brody, thanks for the presentation. That's excellent. Chief Kim, thank you for your service also. I think it's important that we understand that you're at the head of this and you're working through this, and it's great to hear that you're doing great things, so thank you. Okay. Council, we're going to walk into a public comment period. This is a period when you have something you'd like to share with us, whatever that might be. We're okay with that. All I ask would be is if you could step up to the mic and give us your name and address and share whatever you'd like to share. So this is your time. Any comments, thoughts, feelings?
Don't be
Okay.
shy.
Okay, seeing none, let's go right to the city manager's report.
Wait, you got it.
Oh,
we-
okay.
He decided to.
Perfect.
I shouldn't have said that.
Okay, just
It's
give
all
us your
good.
name and address. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm D.L. Thurman. I live at 4953 South, 3100 West. And then I own that big barn by the tracks. And I'd like to discuss that roundabout going on 4800. When I read your article about roundabouts, it made me think I want to come in. But when I come up that street, there's beautification in that roundabout. It makes it so I can't see cars. And I've seen some close accidents caused by the, I'm gonna call it junk that's in the roundabout and the island.
The trees.
And it's got, Roy High has two signs, one on each side of it, and it blocks the vision of the traffic coming in each direction. And then the island in front of my barn serves absolutely no purpose except to keep me from getting in my barn.
Okay.
I'd like you to take a look at that and see if there's something you could do.
Okay, I can share what I know, and then
What's that?
I'm going to share what I know at this moment on the particular piece of the right there by the track. UDOT, and help me with this, Matt, because I think we're working this together. UDOT the railroad as well as Roy City are collaborating to come up with a solution to that particular intersection right there as you come down 4800 and there's a left-hand turn over to 2700. The challenge that we've been told is that this is one of the most hazardous locations in the state. That was pretty alarming when that report went out to the news feed, and I think Ogden Standard wrote that article about that.
That's what brought me in.
And so now we have some challenges in terms of what to do. We do know that recently, from what I understand, Matt, there was because dealing with federal funding, there was a need for the federal government to run through some type of an assessment. UDOT was working that piece of it, and I think we're pretty close right now to that being done. And
They're
the next,
talking about September now.
yeah, now in September, they're going to start doing something in terms of making the changes to that particular location. Now, what I don't know at this moment, to be honest with you, is I don't know what those changes are yet. But they've got to do something to provide some safety net at that location. And so maybe what we could do, Matt, is we start to see some of the drawings and some of the things that are coming out, and they will be coming out, maybe we can bring that to the attention of a council meeting and share that with the public of what's going to happen. My concern was, and it should be youth who drive, we were hoping that would get started and finished before high school started. Looks like now it's not. And if you know what 4800 is in the mornings and late at night, going back and forth to the high school, we're just fearful that it's going to be pretty difficult getting around that area while they're doing that construction. We'll work as close as we can, see what options are available, but just recognize September was not the best month, in my opinion, to basically do any work on that particular. We really need to do that in the summer, but we're not ready, and UDOT will not be ready to do that. So as soon as we get an idea what the pattern will be, then we'll share it with the public and keep people aware of what's going to happen and when it's going to happen.
I used to do that for a living, so if I can help you, call me.
Okay. I think we're going to need a lot of help, to be honest with you.
ATK Designing Roads.
Okay. Well, please stay in touch with us. We'll try to get out any medium we can to get it out to the public. But if you have questions, you're surely welcome to come here, or along the way, come see us. If we get information, we'll share it with you.
I think if you just took the beautification out, it'd make a hell of a lot of difference.
Well, and that's the other part of the conversation I need to really have Matt look at in terms of it creates some hazards by having for a better word, there's a lot of plants in there. There's a couple of
Trees.
signs in there, a tree,
And the
there's a light
trees.
post.
And the one island.
Yeah, on that island. And I think I really need to have the city take a look at that and see if there's any real risks. Anything that we've got, you brought some points up, you can't see the vehicles coming at you. I'm not the expert, so we'll have to see what we can come up with on that. Fair enough?
I do know that Parks and Recs has looked at the trees and stuff that they've planted to make sure that hopefully they don't cause any obstruction of sight lines. But we can again look at those trees and see, you know, what if they are, or as they get, the height that, you know, they're going to be growing and things like that.
I believe the premises is, and I'm no transportation expert, but I think when you're entering a roundabout, they want you to focus on
Right
to your left and not forward, looking on oncoming traffic. They're wanting you to just look left and then continue straight.
Beautification just blocks your vision.
And that's kind of an idea of the
That's the only
roundabout is
problem I've
to
got with it is
block it.
You got the two Roy High School signs, which will completely cover a car coming down.
A good place for this discussion too, and I'll be mentioning this later again, is on May 1st, we'll have a transportation meeting just here at the city offices, and we will have the transportation experts here, Dr. Joe Perrin and some of our city engineers, and we can propose some of these questions to them because they would be able to answer it more effectively and efficiently than I
In
can.
front of my barn does absolutely nothing. It's just there for cars coming down, if they're a little bit off to hit and bounce around the road a little bit. And I can't see a reason at all for that.
That's what I think.
Okay.
Before they put it in, I
Review it.
talked to the council about not even putting it in. I never doing it, but it doesn't do anything, except force me to go up and drive through the subdivision where there's kids playing all the time, to turn around to get in my barn. There's no way to get in that building without going up,
Westbound.
going through that subdivision and coming around.
Well, you're surely welcome to attend that May 1st meeting. It will be here. We'll have
What's
an.
that?
You're surely welcome to join us on May 1st at 6 o'clock. We're going to talk about transportation plan. We're going to talk about some things that I think are pertinent. And it'll either be here or be downstairs. We're
And what time?
6 o'clock, 6 p.m. on May 1st,
First?
1st of May.
Okay.
So please join us, okay? Thank you. Anybody else would like to share some thoughts? Okay, hey, thank you. Okay, then let's roll into the city manager's report.
Okay, perfect. I got a couple of things for you tonight. First off, this Saturday at 10 o'clock at George Wallen North Park, we'll be hosting the Easter egg hunt. Big thanks to Waste Management and their support. They're going to have a couple of trucks there. It's going to be a good time. We have a grundle of children there, and they always have a good time there. This is the first time we're going to do it at George Wallen. Hopefully it's not wet. I know another storm's coming in. The day before would have been nice in the 70-degree weather, but we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it's going to be a success. I wanted to mention that I got a little bit of bad news with the dumpsters, that in July 2020, there's going to be new regulations that if we do have any dumpsters on the street, in order to get certified with stormwater, they will have to be covered. So it will allow us to do the pilot program this year. We've talked about that in previous council meetings, and I'm going to mention some things with that as well in a second. But we will have to anticipate covering those dumpsters. Back in the day when we were looking at it, it was about $14,000 a dumpster to put a lid on it,
Per dumpster?
per dumpster.
Oh,
Yep. What it is if there's garbage and the water gets in there, they don't want that leaking out and getting into our storage rooms, understandably.
And you said that was going to go in effect when?
July of 2020. So next year, if there's
Yeah.
contractors listening, there's going to be a big push next year for the contractors to be in compliance, that if they have dumpsters out at the houses that are affecting the storm water, that they'll have to be covered as well.
Who's regulating that?
I'm not sure. I think it's,
Because we wouldn't be going out and regulating that and doing,
no, it's not, it's
Okay.
the state. Yeah.
okay,
State or federal?
okay.
Yep. Also, we talked about the dumpster doing a neighborhood cleanup with I wanted to let you know that this is going to be in our next newsletter. We're going to be posting the information online pretty close to the same time that the newsletters would hit. So there's not a whole lot of competition because it's just going to be first come, first serve with those dates. This last week, we had quite a few meetings up at the hospital with the Emergency Operations Center. It went quite well. Something that I wanted to report back is it was kind of eye-opening that when we went into the EOC and had the mock-up of the emergency, that we had quite a few city staff members that are very, very key and very, very important. I wanted to mention with Ross Oliver being there, they did a mock-up of maybe the Chevron gas line breaking and what would you do in that event. And there's individuals in the city that really do a good job. Without him, a lot of people didn't even understand that there was a gas line there, but without him, he knew where to divert it and what the effects were. So props to him. But also with that being said, there is a good need to be training some of these other employees in the city, because I could see if a real disaster happened, that without these key individuals, that it would be much more difficult.
Has there been any type of procedures or anything written concerning, like, where that pipeline's at and where, is that?
Yeah, our Public Works Department does have everything mapped out. They do have a system
But
down
as far
there.
as, yeah, but including some of this information as far as like how to divert it or what to do, those need to be some internal procedures that are
Yeah,
written.
it would be very wise to get into not knowing what could happen or where it could break, it would be pretty difficult to draw something up. A lot of it would just be education of understanding the system as a whole to be able to figure out then and there what the problems, because in the mock-up, they took down the 5600 bridge and different roads, and they took down some schools and made everybody prioritize what they were going to be doing. And so it was a collaborated effort that everybody had to work together in order to figure it out. Jeff Como, he is excellent with it, and he's done a substantial amount of work with it as well.
My only concern with that is just working in an industry that I do as far as with procedures and stuff. You just never know if you can end up training people, but even if you train those people might
They'll
not
go
be
away.
around at that
Sure.
time. And so then you might not even have those heads there to be able to go through that information.
Yeah.
That you should be writing down internal procedures for all of these cases, even if it's a what ifs or in case of, because we can't guarantee that
That they're
all of
gonna be
those
there.
players are going to be available in this event.
And I think that's a great idea, that we can start working together to show some of that stuff and review what we did on Wednesday. There was a little bit of a review on Thursday, but to go over with our own circumstances and thinking of different things that we can come up with water lines or anything like that.
We've got some department heads that have been with us for quite a while that knows the city very well, and take Ross in point. And we've got to take what's in his head of
And-
his knowledge of Roy before he retires to be able to put down
Yes, and
put
to
down that
document.
knowledge and stuff. So we don't want to lose that, that
Yeah.
he has for Roy and stuff. So
Yeah,
we
I'll
wanna
have
make sure
him
we
start
get that.
writing a couple of
Yeah,
books
he needs
for
to
us.
start writing. He needs to start writing his brain down.
Yeah.
Matt, is there an ongoing training plan for that kind of?
Yeah, we have
information.
ongoing training for it. FEMA, I know that police and fire is a lot more involved in this than any other city organization, but there's training back east with FEMA. FEMA actually came out for this training here and put it on for us, and it was for all of Weber County. But there is a ton of resources out there. You can get certified. I know our new finance director, she's certified in a lot of this stuff through her old employer, so she's been through all the trainings. There's tests, so there's a lot of avenues that we can.
Just seems like we should have a forward-going plan.
Yes, and it's ongoing too. It's not something that you go get certified and just drop the ball, and
Okay.
it's something
Okay.
that you constantly have to be renewing and things. So
Yeah, good comment, Matt. First thing I think intuitively we just need to recognize the fact is that if anything is really important, it's that first 72 hours. Every household has to basically be in a position to sustain itself for 72 hours. And the reasoning and logic behind that logic is simply the fact is that our police officers, our fire department, our public works, if they're human, they're going to make sure their family's safe. And when their family's safe, then they're going to put every ounce of their energy to help everybody else be safe. But if you don't think that's not reality, the fact is it is reality. And so once they get confirmation that their family is good and they're safe, then they're going to do everything they can to help everybody else be safe. And to think otherwise would almost suggest they're unhuman. And so that period of time, we're kind of on our own. And we got to just come to that realization. And so I like the comment about have good documentation. I think that emergency operation plan can be enhanced. And if you can put the what-if statements in there, Matt, I think that's perfect.
Yeah,
Because
we'll start
you
working
went
on
through
that.
those scenarios. You just use those as the lessons learned. It says, hey, here's some options. But if we don't have the good documentation, then it's tribal knowledge. And as long as a member of the tribe is there, it works. But when the tribe leaders leave, the information's gone and we start all over. And so I think it's really inherent and more effective if we can get good documentation, allow us to see that and use that and then enhance that and build on that. And then as we move, and we will move through leaders in this organization, then hopefully we retain the corporate knowledge or tribal knowledge of what we need to do to survive through this. And so I think there's a lot of value in that. So let's see how we might be able to do that and
for
make
sure.
that work. That's great comments. Okay.
couple more items. On May 13th, Roy City will be hosting, alongside with the Red Cross, a blood drive just out front here. They'll be setting up in the morning, I guess. But I urge employees or even residents, anybody that would like to participate in that, to come and donate blood. Talked about this a little bit earlier, but the May 1st transportation meeting will be held here at 6 p.m. Prior to that, I welcome I spoke with some individuals at the school district. If you recollect that there was an individual here of a bus driver, Sean Bailey, talking about driving around the roundabout. I've contacted the school district and then Sean Bailey himself, and he's going to be willing to take individuals around the calming circle the night next Tuesday. It will be is at 4 p.m. and just meet down at the church. If you want to participate, you can either get in the school bus or you can watch. But Sean will be there at the church on 5700 South at 4 p.m. to drive around that.
Are some of our engineers going to be there?
We're going to reach out to them. Ross is going to be there, and we're going to reach out to some of our engineers, yes.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get some of those guys there. So I got notification. If another item is the Blue Line ladies came a couple of weeks ago and donated some body armor to the police department. They have sent out an email, and Saturday, May 18th, they're going to be hosting a barbecue and fair. So from entertainment. But I want Chief Marino to know that the fire department is going to provide the entertainment, so you might need to step some things up. They're going to donate their goods to the fire department. This last week, we had the department meetings for our budgets. So we're going through things right now. I just want to let you guys know about that. Just a balance. I've been trying to be pretty open. If you guys have any questions, just contact me directly. Tentatively, I'd like to set a meeting for May 14th for a budget workshop if we want to do it. We're presenting the budget the first week into May, the tentative budget. How the budgets typically work is that it's an administrative function up until that tentative date of the tentative budget of the first meeting in May. And then after the first meeting in May, it becomes a council budget, and you guys can play with it and work that. And then the approval is in June. So I want to do that tentative meeting on May 14th. If you guys had any questions with the budget or anything like that, we can have that day available.
Say again what time that is.
I would anticipate just the 5:30, the typical time, yeah,
all right.
May 14th.
And will the council be able to see a rough draft of that budget prior to
Yes,
that
the
meeting?
tentative budget will be issued on the first council meeting, which is May 7th.
Okay, so you'll have it roughly 7 days
So,
prior.
Yep,
Perfect.
exactly.
Okay.
So with that being said, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Good rundown. Council, any thoughts, comments?
Just
Oh, go down.
real quick, we had the municipal park open house last Wednesday, and there was probably about, I'd guess, maybe 25 people there, roughly. We talked about municipal park and the things that are going to be looked at and considered going into that park. That's the one located on 2200 West and about 5800 South, roughly. Some great things. Some things that were talked about were fitness equipment, activities, redoing the trail, the restrooms, putting in drinking fountain, putting in benches, and I can't.
Lights, there was
Lights.
lights that we talked
Oh,
about.
and lights along the west side
Right.
of the trail, so that people could use the walking trail at night and not fall upon harm. Anyway, went well, I thought. I thought the suggestions were great. I'm excited to see what it looks like once we're done. I think we're still deciding what to do with that. And I actually just, isn't that where we're at on that?
Yeah, we're going to be looking into the lights. Travis is really looking into the electricity part to see if it needs to be solar or if they could get power out there. We were kind of bouncing some ideas off today, but that's a valid concern. But a lot of the requests weren't anything not attainable. I think with the garbage cans and stuff, I think it was
Yeah.
a great idea. So I
Yeah.
think the meeting went very, very
Yeah,
well.
well.
And we're going to be underway here pretty quick.
Okay, there you go, Municipal Park. Thanks.
Okay, I have, Mayor,
Please.
I'm on the Mosquito Abatement District Board, and with this last meeting, we had to talk about, with all the rain and moisture that we're receiving, that it really is gonna increase the mosquito population. So they're working hard. We, going to start, they've actually started spraying now, which is approximately 3 weeks earlier than they usually do because of all the rain that we've been receiving. But one thing that they wanted to stress is that we need to have all the citizens do their part, looking around their own property to make sure that any standing water, that they're looking to get rid of that, whether it includes bird baths, fountains, rain gutters, tree holes, stumps, open trash, recycling bins, ponds, old tires. They've got a whole list here of things that citizens need to start looking at to make sure that they don't have any of that freestanding water that's out, because that will increase the mosquito population. I have emailed to Morgan a copy of this that just recently did, Morgan. You'll see it tomorrow. Anyway, to be able to put in our newsletter as a reminder to our citizens about looking at the property to help with mosquitoes.
That's a good idea.
Good information. Perfect. Jan, you have anything you want to share with
I
us?
have nothing today.
Just one thing, just to let you know that on May 10th, we begin what they call Spike 150. May 10th through the 12th, this is going to be kind of a, since the 150th anniversary of the Golden Spike driving that has taken place. It's a big event. Statewide, there's going to be a lot of activities, a lot of things, particularly in Weber County. So I would ask you to consider, just if you like, joining, watching for it in the paper and joining in these activities. It's a big event. That Transcontinental Railroad event that took place 150 years ago was significant. It literally changed, this country. For a better word, they're not hand carting and they weren't dragging wagons. They were riding that train in, and it just changed the dynamics of this whole region. It's a big event. We have the opportunity in this region to be part of that, and we'll celebrate that beginning on May 10th through the 12th. So please take advantage of that. Other than that, I have nothing else. Matt, anything else you'd like to share with us?
Not from here.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Having seen no more input, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing one? Thank you. We'll be board meeting. Just want to basically recognize that we do have Board Member Saxton, Board Member Yeoman, and Board Member Burrell joining us tonight, and we're excusing Board Members Paul and Tafoya. With that, we have one consent item. I'd like to approve the March 19th, 2019 Redevelopment Agency meeting minutes. Okay? Do you have any comments on that, board members? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion basically to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the March 19th
Okay,
RDA Board meeting minutes.
thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm
I
gonna look.
wasn't here, I'm hesitant to.
Okay,
approve or second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay. Board members, I'll just indicate to you, we're going to table some things here, but we do want to just have Randy Sant talk to us a little bit about some of the general information found in this chart in terms of the community reinvestment areas. So Randy, if you'll give us a talk, and then we're going to talk about some of these other things in this on this agenda. So go ahead, Randy. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, at the March 19th meeting, we talked about the potential of creating some additional community reinvestment areas, and we were told to come back to the board with some suggestions as to areas that we could potentially create. On this map that you have, I believe, in front of you, there are a couple of areas I want to talk about. The purple area on the map is already in an existing redevelopment project area. It's the Roy Center project area. It's already created. The light brown area is an area that we are looking to create. This would be the area from 5600 South to just about where McDonald's is at on the west side of 1900. The reason we are looking at that being a survey area is because we have a potential opportunity there with the Planet Fitness building being vacated, that we think we have some opportunity with a developer who's interested in developing that. But they were interested in more than just that one parcel. They would like to extend that and look at a bigger area. So one of the areas we're talking about would be this light brown area. The yellow area that you see is basically the area from the south side of the marketplace all the way to Walgreens and then east of 1900. Now, the question is, why not create one area there? Well, we think that because of the timing and because of the opportunity, they may trigger at different times. And so rather than trigger all increment at once, create two different separate areas and do that. Now, again, let me stress, these are survey areas. So what we do as part of this process is we go through, we look at all of the parcels of property, we look at what the current uses are, we look at what the zoning are, what we look at the assessed value is. We do a study, and based on that study and based on the development opportunities, we may narrow that area from what it is with the survey. But once we create that survey, we can enlarge it. So we're taking an area that is probably maybe a little bit bigger than what the project area would end up being, but we want to study that area, and that is why we have a resolution that authorizes that study. If you then look at the green area, this is the area down by the DNR tracks. This is also the property that UTA owns. We think that that has some opportunity for development, and we also know that in other areas where UTA has had property and they want to develop it, normally a developer will ask for tax increment incentives. So that is the other area we have outlined for creating. The orange area there that you see, that's an existing RDA that will sunset in 3 years. So the survey areas that we are asking to consider are those 3 areas right now that we have outlined for you on the map. Any questions I can answer?
Any questions?
Okay, so I just want, make sure it's on the record and stuff. So how does it work if these are the proposed areas of the RDA districts that we are looking at that we would like to, go towards? How does that work as far as like our voting and putting the money towards those areas that is in the RDA budget? How does that process work?
Well, the process in creating a project area, we have about 19 steps we have to go through to create the project area itself. Part of that creation is also putting a budget together for that project area. So what we would do is, as we move forward, we may create the project areas first, and then depending on what type of activity we have, we may come back and adopt a budget at a later date. It may or may not be part of the creation process. That will depend on what kind of development we have. Frankly, I think this brown area will probably be the first area for consideration, because we're currently working with an interested party that has interest in maybe developing that area. I think the second area will be the yellow area, simply because we have been in conversations with Woodbury about developing that south side of their property. And then I think the last area would be the UTA area. But as far as the budget goes, we'll create a budget for that project area and utilize the tax increment that's created within that project area. Now, we have to go to the taxing entities, the school district, the county, the city, and the others, and then by interlocal agreement, get them to participate in any tax increment participation for that budget. So that would be one of the steps that we would do. The law does allow us, though, that the orange area, the Iomega West, is currently creating tax increment. We can, under the law, lend that increment to one of those new project areas that we created if we needed to have some upfront seed money to get that started. We could also do the same thing with the purple area. So if we got those areas created and had a need to maybe do something sooner than later than the increment would generate, we could make a loan to that and then pay
Okay.
that loan back with that. So there's a couple of budget options we have
Okay,
with the creation of the project areas.
okay. Because most of the RDA areas that we've had in the past were created prior to me coming on. And so that's what I just kind of wanted to know with the new proposed areas that, because like you says, most of those are expiring, those areas prior. So that's why I kind of wanted to know a little bit of the proposed budget moving forward, that proposed areas moving forward.
Right, and what we'll do is we go through the process, the creation process, we'll walk you through each one of the steps as they happen. The first step is, though, that we come to the agency board with a proposed area, and if you want to move forward, then you adopt a resolution creating that area as a survey area, and then it allows us to start the process of creating the project area.
Okay,
Just a note, though, these would be CRAs.
Community
versus
reinvestment areas.
RDAs,
Right.
which allows us to not, have to show blight.
There's no blight finding requirement in a community reinvestment area,
That's
and
good.
there is
we
no power
use
of
the-
eminent domain in these reinvestment areas.
okay.
That's the significant difference. We don't
Okay,
have to
that's
find
good to know.
blight, and we
And-
don't have
and
any
we-
power of eminent domain in
To
these
take property.
these areas that we're going to create.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, board, any other questions, comments?
Just,
No, so next step, since you've presented these proposed areas to us, then what will be the next step for us to be able to vote on those?
Do you want to
Okay.
take that, Mr.
Yes,
Chair, or do you want me to do
Okay,
that?
sorry if I'm jumping
That's
ahead.
okay.
Had we had more of the council members, the board members here tonight, we would have taken that vote tonight.
Okay.
The resolutions are listed and outlined in the action items, but because the sensitivity of this, and more importantly, because of the broad spectrum, we're talking about literally, these could run 20-some-odd years. We felt that all the board really ought to be part of this process and at least aware of it, answer the questions, we take a vote. So what
I
I'll
agree.
recommend that we table this.
And just so you know, I will probably recuse myself from that voting process just because of the
The school board
conflict of
district,
interest.
right.
Yes.
No, I think that's fair, Mayor, because like I says, a lot of these RDA areas, once they're voted upon, they do last for, an extended period of time, and time that, us as council members will not be maybe even in our elected positions. So with that being said, I feel that all the elected officials need to make sure that they are aware of this because they will be voting for the future of the city and put those RDA proposals in place for future council members. So, no, I agree that with the call to make all board members here to be able to vote.
So right now, I think we're planning our next city council meeting in May. It'll be right after the city council meeting. We'll have another RDA board meeting.
Okay.
And then that'll give us enough time to make sure we get everybody here that needs to be here and have you a chance then to read through the resolutions and what we're proposing. And then we'll go ahead and ask for the vote. Okay? And then based on that vote, that kicks the city and Randy as our contractor to start this process, to start putting this thing in motion. So,
Just
but
keep
we
us
need the
informed where we're at on our 19 steps, We are on
fact,
step
yeah,
11.
We'll tell you that each time we
Okay.
bring something back
just
to you as
giving
to
you a bad
where
time.
we
That's
are.
that's a good comment, though, Carlene. I like it.
I don't know the 19 steps.
You get a copy, but I'll make sure you get a copy of that process, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, this is, and just for edification, I believe it's in your box. Each one of you would have got the map in your box. And this is, something was emailed to you. It's the CRA creation process, and that's the next steps.
Oh, so that you have sent out the steps to them? Yes. So
Yeah,
we
they-
have
they should-
you have the steps that are
Recently?
listed.
Yeah, I don't remember getting it.
I just pulled up RDA. And
If you have not got it, we'll make sure
We'll
you
make
get
sure you
it.
get it before tomorrow morning.
We
okay?
may have, what we may have, Mr. Chair, we may have sent that out to the Economic Committee members.
Oh, that's
and-
right.
And maybe
okay. 'Cause
not
I was like, I don't
to
remember
the
seeing
entire
the
that's
19
right.
board.
steps.
that could have
That's
been what we did.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll make sure we get it to you if you see
okay,
it.
yeah, I don't,
I've seen that.
yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and you should have a map in your box, so check that as well if you
Well,
don't.
if Morgan can just go ahead and copy the 19 steps and just put it in, attach it with the map and put
You
it in our
got it.
box, that would be perfect.
We'll do that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you,
check.
Randy, for that. Review and approval of the provide funding for the demolition of the property of the Marketplace Shopping Center. We have, just to bring you up to date, we have sent the letter to the property owner. We have not heard a response back. And so what we were going to try to do is the board members actually approved to go ahead and do that under certain conditions. We've now expressed those conditions to the property owner. If they are willing to basically work with us based on the conditions approved by the board, then we'll be ready to move forward. We're just waiting for a response.
Okay.
So I'd like to table that at this moment and bring this up as soon as we get confirmation from the property owner,
Hopefully the next RDA meeting.
and we'll work
Okay.
that one.
Okay,
And that moves us into the action items.
Okay,
And
Jan.
Board, I'd like to table all of these action items, predicated then have more of our board members here, and allows us then to have a good dialogue, very much what you said, Carleen, in terms of the importance of that. So,
Mayor, can I just ask,
Please.
was there a time frame for that response?
that's what I was wondering, if we'd have that back by our next RDA meeting.
yeah, we'll put some pressure, but to your question, they were eager to have that, so we were anticipating they would move right out on it.
Okay,
But your good point. I need to send a note, or Randy, you and I need to send a note to Walter and just simply tell him that we really would like this brought up for our next RDA
Next
board
RDA.
meeting so that we can move ahead on that proposal.
I don't think we can leave it on the table forever. I mean,
Absolutely correct.
as costs change,
No.
things change, and so I think there needs to be a time frame.
okay, Mayor, do you need a motion to table?
I think we do have to
Okay.
have a motion to table, okay?
Mayor,
So,
do you want me to go ahead?
go ahead. So, board would
May-
like to table the action items listed, all four of those. Do I
Mm-hmm.
have a motion to table these action items?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table resolution number 19-1, resolution -19-2, resolution -19-3, and also number 4, approving the funding and demolition of the Marketplace Shopping Center, table until the next RDA meeting.
Perfect. Okay, do I have a
Seconded.
second? I have a second. This is not a roll call, okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're tabled. Thank you. Do I have then a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And I have a second.
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Second. Aye.